Tracy Wildbin was born on September 29, 1966, in California, into a family that would soon face profound change. At the age of 14, her life shifted dramatically when her parents decided to separate. Tracy moved with her father and older brother to Riverside, a city where she had to adapt quickly to new surroundings and routines. Despite the upheaval, Tracy proved resilient, forming a close friendship with her new next-door neighbor, Trish. This friendship became a central part of her teenage years, offering comfort and stability during a turbulent time. Their bond only grew stronger over the years, supported by shared interests and family ties. Tracy's cousin on her father's side, Tanya, was also part of this close-knit group. The three girls became inseparable, spending hours together roller skating, shopping, and immersing themselves in horseback riding. Their collective energy and companionship were a source of joy amid the challenges brought on by family changes. The dynamic in their lives shifted again when Trish's parents divorced and Trish's mother eventually married Tracy's father. This union formally blended their families, turning best friends into stepsisters and further deepening their connection. As they matured, Tracy, Trish, and Tanya entered nursing training together, a path that reflected their ambition and desire to help others. They successfully completed their education and began their journeys as nurses, supporting one another through professional and personal milestones. However, alongside these achievements, the family endured tragedy. Tracy lost her brother and 3 half-siblings in a short period, a series of losses that weighed heavily on everyone, including Tracy's father and stepmother, who assumed responsibility for their grandchildren. Through these difficulties, Tracy's inner strength emerged, demonstrating the importance of her support network, her adaptability, and her capacity to persist, all of which laid a solid foundation for the challenges she would face in the years to come. Tracy Wildbin entered adulthood with determination, seeking stability and the opportunity to build a fulfilling life. She married Richard, and together they welcomed their daughter, Kristen. However, the marriage ended in divorce, leaving Tracy as a single mother responsible for both parenting and providing for her young daughter. Undeterred by this challenge, Tracy demonstrated persistence and adaptability, moving between several states in pursuit of better employment as a nurse. Her efforts were guided by the hope of securing a brighter future for Kristen and maintaining connections with her family, especially her relatives in California. The hardships Tracy faced were magnified by a period of profound family loss. Multiple close relatives passed away in quick succession, a tragic chapter that left Tracy's father and stepmother to take on the responsibility of raising the children orphaned by these losses. Even as she mourned, Tracy continued to do her utmost to support her loved ones from a distance. Tracy's journey then led her into a second marriage, followed by a move to Tennessee. Unfortunately, her hopes for a new beginning collapsed when this marriage also ended in divorce, adding emotional and financial strain. Forced to begin anew once more, Tracy turned to her cousin Tanya, who was living in Alabama. With Tanya's support, Tracy found both housing and a nursing job at a local care facility. She dealt daily with the reality of tight finances, taking public transportation to work, carefully managing rent and basic necessities, and saving what she could to visit her now-grown daughter. Tracy's experience navigating single motherhood, relocation, loss, and repeated reinvention shaped her as a woman of resilience, resourcefulness, and enduring hope, always striving to persevere no matter how daunting the obstacles that confronted her. On October 13, 2010, Tracy Wildbin's absence from her nursing shift triggered immediate concern among her co-workers, who quickly notified management. Given Tracy's reputation for reliability and the recency of her employment, their worries escalated rapidly. The building's landlord, who lived on the property, was asked to check on her. After knocking several times without an answer, he eventually used a spare key to enter. Calling out for Tracy and hearing no response, he proceeded into her bedroom, where he discovered her lifeless body on the floor. Blood was visible on her head, confirming a violent incident. He rushed outside to call the police, who soon arrived and began processing the scene. Inside, officers confronted a site marked by brutality. Tracy was found unclothed, bearing 2 stab wounds to her back, multiple additional injuries including defensive wounds, and a deep cut across her throat, all suggesting prolonged torture. The medical examiner later confirmed she died from significant blood loss. Evidence also revealed she had suffered a sexual assault. A handgun was found lying on the floor near her body. However, investigators could not discern if it belonged to Tracy or her assailant. They documented that she had not been shot. The home showed no signs of forced entry, implying Tracy had possibly allowed her killer inside or that he talked his way in. Detectives collected forensic evidence from the scene, including blood and DNA samples from Tracy's body and from within the house. The discovery of the handgun remained a perplexing clue. As they awaited lab results, officers faced uncertainty regarding how the killer accessed the home, how the weapon became involved, and who might be responsible, setting the complex and challenging tone for the ensuing investigation. Law enforcement responded by methodically processing the crime scene and creating a list of initial suspects. Investigators began by examining Tracy's ex-husbands, considering potential motives connected to former relationships. However, both ex-husbands were quickly eliminated from suspicion, as each provided solid alibis that were confirmed by authorities in their respective states. Attention then shifted to Tracy's complaint about a man named Richardson, who she accused of acting suspiciously and harassing her in the days before her death. Police questioned and observed Richardson, but after interviewing him and verifying his whereabouts, investigators confirmed his alibi and cleared him of involvement. Focus then narrowed to those with possible access to Tracy's home, particularly those she trusted. James, Tanya's boyfriend, became a person of interest due to his close relationship with Tracy. The fact that he had recently given Tracy the handgun discovered at the scene, and the visible fresh cut on his pinky finger. Investigators recognized the type of injury as common during knife assaults, prompting further inquiry. James, however, denied involvement and attributed his injury to an unrelated household accident. Officers corroborated James and Tanya's story. After picking up paychecks, visiting the bank, and stopping by a used car lot with Tracy, they dropped her off at home. Their timeline was supported by surveillance footage and statements from employees at the car dealership, aligning with James's account. Tanya also provided an alibi for James, and their movements appeared to check out. Despite these cautious eliminations, the investigation stalled as other leads failed to materialize. Detectives found themselves frustrated with no credible suspect in custody and DNA evidence from the crime scene still pending laboratory analysis, leaving the case unresolved at this stage. Tanya and James's motivations emerged in chilling detail through their confessions. Both revealed a shared fascination with crime, fueled by heavy drug use and an obsession with crime dramas, in particular a CSI episode involving the torture and killing of a woman. Inspired by the narrative, they began to nurture a mutual fantasy of committing a similar crime themselves. Rather than choosing a random victim, they selected Tracy, someone they both knew and believed they could manipulate. Their planning became systematic, with discussions about potential scenarios, rehearsal of roles, and a conscious decision to prey on someone within their circle to minimize the risks of detection. The crime was executed according to their established plan. After driving Tracy home from the car dealership, James entered her house under the pretense of using the bathroom. Inside, Tanya gave the predetermined signal, slapping Tracy, which initiated the attack. James emerged and assaulted Tracy, rendering her unconscious. The pair then moved her to the bedroom, stripped her, and waited for her to regain consciousness. At gunpoint, both proceeded to sexually assault Tracy, displaying a disturbing degree of coordination and lack of empathy. They continued the attack with calculated cruelty, ultimately culminating in Tracy's murder. James stabbed her repeatedly in the throat and back, telling her that despite everything, her death was unavoidable. Following the killing, they attempted to clean the scene and considered burning the house to destroy evidence. Ultimately, they abandoned this due to fear of being seen by neighbors. The acts of violence were marked by chilling premeditation and a shocking absence of remorse, particularly on James's part. Tanya's involvement was equally manipulative, revealing a depth of planning and participation that left investigators and observers appalled at the calculated and remorseless nature of their crime. The legal process that followed Tracy's murder proved to be lengthy and complex. It took nearly 4 years before the case proceeded to trial, during which time both James and Tanya remained in custody. James faced the most severe charges: murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault. Prosecutors sought the death penalty, highlighting the brutal nature of the act and the premeditated cruelty evident in both the confession and the forensic evidence. The trial included extensive testimony from detectives, forensic experts, and those who had known the victim and the defendants. The defense presented James's traumatic upbringing, marked by parental neglect, substance abuse, and repeated exposure to violence. They also argued that there was no proof Tracy had not consented to sex, attempting to mitigate the severity of the sexual assault charge, and submitted a mental health evaluation. Despite these efforts, the jury found James guilty on all major counts, and he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. He pursued a series of appeals, but none yielded a different outcome. Eventually, in April 2025, the sentence was carried out. In his final statement, James referenced his guilt and finally spoke Tracy's name, expressing a late, brief plea for forgiveness after years of silence regarding his victim. Tanya's fate diverged as prosecutors offered her a deal in exchange for her testimony against James. She accepted a plea that spared her from the death penalty in return for a life sentence. During her sentencing, Tanya addressed the court with an apology, stating that she was sorry for what had happened. Tracy's family and lifelong friends, including her childhood companion Trish, listened but remained unmoved, expressing disbelief in Tanya's remorse. The outcomes for both perpetrators were shaped by the legal process and the evidence presented, with the story's conclusion rooted firmly in the real-world consequences imposed by the justice system and the unhealed pain of those left behind. The aftermath of Tracy Wildbin's murder cast a long and sorrowful shadow over those who loved her. Tracy's family and close friends, especially Trish, struggled to process the violence and betrayal that had shattered their world. Throughout the trial, Trish was a steady presence, attending hearings and providing support for Tracy's grieving relatives. When Tanya accepted her plea deal in exchange for testifying against James, and later addressed the court offering an apology, the response from those closest to Tracy was marked by profound skepticism. Trish, having known both women since childhood, openly expressed that she could not accept Tanya's display of remorse as genuine. The pain of losing Tracy was compounded by the sense that justice had fallen short and trust had been irreversibly broken. Life after these events became an ongoing journey through grief and the complex process of rebuilding. Family members faced the near-impossible task of moving forward while carrying the burden of loss and constantly confronting memories of the tragedy. The experience left them coping with persistent sorrow, anger, and questions that would likely never be answered. Tracy's absence was felt not only within her immediate family but also throughout her larger community, a community that continued to mourn her life and condemn the betrayal by those she had considered family. The wounds created by violent loss do not heal easily, and for Tracy's survivors, The sense of injustice lingered long after the sentences were handed down. The collective memory of her life remained an ever-present reminder of the fragility of trust and safety. The trial's conclusion served as a point of reference for the complexities of closure, the realities of enduring grief, and the challenge of reconciling with a future changed by deliberate violence.